Imagine standing in a world where the wind cuts like glass, the snow is an enemy, and every sunrise is just another reminder of the gnawing hunger in your belly. Survival isn't theoretical, it's the ragged edge of every single day.
Yeah, it really is.
Your hands are raw, your clothes threadbare, and the only thing standing between you and the brutal reality of this landscape is your own desperate skill with a bow. This is where we begin our deep dive today in a poor cottage on the frosty edge of a realm whispered about in fearful, hushed tones.
It's a life of constant grinding struggle, isn't it? Defined by cold and scarcity. And in that struggle, a single pivotal act is about to shatter the fragile boundary between the human world and the ancient, powerful, and often terrifying realm of the Fae.
Exactly. Our journey today takes us into a rich stack of notes and transcripts you've shared with us, a deep dive into a world where the line between human and Fae is drawn not just on maps, but in blood and ancient law. It's a place where a desperate hunt for food can change everything you thought you knew, not just about the world outside your door, but, well, about yourself.
Our mission in this deep dive is to meticulously unpack the layers of this incredible story through the eyes of its protagonist, a young woman thrust abruptly into this alien magical realm.
Right.
We'll explore the rules that govern this world, the complex motivations of its inhabitants, and uncover the surprising truths that lie beneath the surface. What happens truly when the hunter becomes the claimed?
Okay, let's start at the very beginning then, with the catalyst, right? The event that sets this whole story in motion.
The moment everything changes. And it's rooted in the harsh reality we just described, life in a poor cottage, perpetually battling hunger and the biting cold. The source material really emphasizes the sheer struggle for survival that dictates every single action.
And within that struggle, you see a family dynamic that's almost as cold as the weather, really. There's an absent father and two sisters, Nesta and Elaine, who seem, I don't know, disconnected from the stark poverty surrounding them.
Yeah, they are. They're preoccupied with trivial things. The source mentions chatter about ribbons, talk of young men while they're literally wrapped in threadbare blankets.
While Feyre, our protagonist, is out in the woods, risking her life, hunting to put food on the table. It's such a contrast.
It is. Her sisters rely completely on her. It's a heavy burden for someone so young to be the sole provider for a family seemingly unwilling or maybe unable to contribute in the same way.
In this vulnerability, it's starkly symbolized by those fake ward markings on their cottage door and windows, isn't it?
Absolutely. Her father got them, traded a wood carving to some charlatan, hoping they'd offer protection against Fae harm, but Feyre knows they're useless.
Just a hollow gesture.
Exactly. A hollow gesture against a very real, ever-present fear of what lies beyond the wall. It just underscores the desperation, clinging to false hope in the face of genuine danger.
And that danger, well, it manifests one day when Feyre's out hunting. Just a necessary task for survival.
She's in the woods tracking, and she kills a large wolf. The source specifically notes its distinctive gray coat.
And her action immediately following the kill is purely pragmatic, isn't it? She takes the wolf's hide straight to the market.
Right. It's not about sport or cruelty. It's a direct exchange to keep her family fed, to get money for supplies. Just another hunt, really. Or so she thinks.
Until the consequence arrives. Not long after, a terrifying figure appears at their cottage, the beast.
Yeah, the source describes his intimidating presence, a deep growl, his massive size. He's so large, he's described as nearly the same size as the horse he rides on later.
Wow.
His arrival immediately sends her family into a panic, cowering in fear.
He cuts right to the chase, though.
Yeah.
He accuses her of killing the wolf and demands payment. And this isn't random aggression, it's based on an ancient agreement, right? A treaty.
Exactly. A treaty between the human realm and Prythian. And he spells out the specific chilling term. A life for a life. Any unprovoked attacks on fairy kind by humans are to be paid only by a human life in exchange.
And Feyre is confused. She doesn't remember this.
She's initially confused, yeah. She had heard lessons about the treaty as a child, but she doesn't recall this particular, rather important detail.
The beast's response to her confusion is pretty telling.
It is. He clarifies that most mortals have conveniently chosen to forget this part of the treaty, and that for him, and perhaps others of his kind, forgetting just makes punishing them all the more enjoyable.
Oof, that's grim. Establishes a long memory and a certain cruelty.
Definitely. He demands to know who killed the wolf. Feyre tries a desperate, clumsy lie, claiming she mistakenly killed it.
Which doesn't work, I'm guessing.
No. The source hints that while Fae themselves cannot lie, they might possess the ability to smell lies on humans. Recognizing the futility, she stops pretending and confesses directly. I did.
His reaction to her confession is interesting, though. What does he do?
He blinks, glances at her sisters, then back at Feyre. He seems to assess her physically, noting her thinness and seeing only frailness. There's this moment of apparent disbelief that she, this scrawny thing, could possibly have brought down his friend, who we later learn is named Andres in his wolf form.
Right, Andres.
He then lays out the options, the payment required by the treaty and by the laws of Prythian. He can gut you like swine right there. Or she can cross the wall and live out the remainder of your days in Prythian, forsaking the human realm.
But he leaves something out, doesn't he?
He does. He deliberately omits a crucial detail at first, that she would be living on his lands, granted permission to do so. The source notes this as an example of how Fae, though they can't lie, can certainly omit information to their advantage. A loophole.
Okay, so Feyre's internal struggle must be immense. But outwardly, she's defiant.
Very defiant. She doesn't beg or plead. Instead, she questions his apparent generosity, asking why he'd bother offering a choice at all. She voices her fear that Prythian is lethal to humans and says she'd prefer death right there.
Wow.
Yeah, and she even challenges him directly, stating that killing him would have been deserved even if she had known he was Fae, considering all that your kind has done to us. It's a bold statement, acknowledging that brutal history.
The tension in that tiny cottage must have been unbearable.
Immense. Her father, who seemed so absent before, grips her shoulder and desperately pleads, "She is all." The beast silences him with a growl, but those words, seeing her father finally show some care, hit Feyre profoundly. Like a blade to my belly, the source says.
And Nesta, her sister, what's her reaction?
Nesta shows this fierce protectiveness towards Elaine, pushing her farther behind her. Feyre notes the way Nesta positions herself, realizing Nesta would go down swinging for her sister.
Huh. So even with their difficult relationship.
Exactly. It's a stark realization for Feyre about her family, their hidden depths, their vulnerabilities, and maybe who they truly prioritize.
And this mix of fear, defiance, seeing her dad plead, seeing Nesta protect Elaine, that's what makes her decide.
It seems to be. This constellation of factors solidifies her decision. She loosens her grip on the hunting knife she still held and asks the chilling question, when do we go?
And the beast's reaction.
It feels symbolic and final. He pulls an ash arrow from a quiver left behind ash being harmful to Fae. He sniffs it, snarls, and then deliberately snaps it in half, tossing the pieces into the fire.
A very clear message. End of her old life.
Absolutely, no turning back. As she prepares to leave, her farewells are surprisingly pragmatic. She gives her father instructions, venison, money, hunting advice, finding Isaac Hale for snares, urging him to learn to hunt and make a name for yourself.
Practical even then.
She takes a moment to memorize his face, notes his trembling grasp, and then he surprises her, his voice thick with emotion, calling her too good for here, urging her never to return, to make a name for herself out there.
That must have conflicted with her promise to her mother.
Sharply. That promise seems like a heavy weight she carries. Her final words are to Nesta, a grim warning about Tomas Mondre, a potential suitor. Don't marry Tomas Mondre, she says, adding the implication, bruises are harder to conceal than poverty.
Whoa. That's dark.
It is. Nesta's reaction, widening eyes, stiffening, silence, suggests a harsh truth shared between them, a quiet understanding of the dangers women face in their world.
And then she just leaves, follows the beast.
And with that, she leaves the cottage, following the beast into the snowy night, the crunching snow muffling her father's parting words, the first step into the unknown.
That journey into the unknown then brings us right to the threshold of Prythian itself. What's that journey like?
The source describes it as filled with grim anticipation of whatever torment and misery awaited her. It's not exactly a pleasant trip.
I bet.
Awaiting them is a white mare, described as surprisingly calm despite the beast's presence. Feyre, who hadn't ridden in years, finds some physical comfort in the horse's warmth, but internally, well, she's a mess.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hunger, fear.
Hunger, an aching stomach, dread, rage, despair, all washing over her. It's this constant mental seesaw. One moment she's feeling this wretched smugness, imagining her family back home, finally realizing how essential she was.
And then
The next, a blinding agony, thinking of her father's pleading words, or worrying about the sacrifices Nesta might have to make for Elaine. Every glance at the beast riding silently beside her just fuels these fears and angers.
is she trying to figure him out, study him?
Oh, constantly. The hunter in her is looking for weakness in her captor. She tries to engage him, asking his name, his kind, his powers, desperate for any information.
And he tells her
Nothing. Offers only silence or maybe a bitter laugh. Refuses to give her any knowledge at all.
Then there's the encounter with the puka, right?
Yes, brief but disorienting. She feels a charged metallic tang in the air, then overwhelming exhaustion and blackness. Wakes up later secured by invisible bonds.
Magic.
She recognizes it deep down as magic, something from collective mortal memory and terror. It's a chilling reminder of the Fae world's power and her complete vulnerability. And maybe, an early warning sign that the land itself is unwell.
How long does this journey take?
2 days from the cottage to the border wall. Not a huge distance, but it's a passage from one reality to another entirely.
And crossing the wall, she doesn't really have a choice.
No choice at all. The gates swing open at the invisible wall, and her horse follows the beast, whether I wanted to or not. She enters the southernmost border of Prythian, feeling like a lamb in a kingdom of wolves.
And the first sight of the Spring Court estate after her life.
It's a profound shock. Sprawling, rolling greenland that dwarfs even her memory of her family's former manor, covered in vibrant roses and ivy, patios, balconies, elegant staircases everywhere.
So beautiful.
Incredibly beautiful. The source emphasizes the sheer beauty, color, sunlight movement, texture, a vivid, overwhelming contrast to the gray, cold scarcity she's known.
But despite all that beauty, her first thought.
Paradoxical, isn't it? This place feels civilized, clean, beautiful, but her overwhelming thought is, I have to get out. Her driving motivation, that promise to her mother, cold as she was, is described as all I had of her. Escape is paramount.
And then the beast changes.
The final, dramatic transformation. He stands before her, no longer the terrifying animal, but a stunning male. Blonde hair, piercing green eyes flecked with gold, warrior's clothes, and a strange, beautiful mask. Pointed ears. Tamlin, who we later learn is the High Lord of the Spring Court. This reveal of his true form, hinting at his status, immediately changes the whole dynamic.
And his first words to her there, at the estate, they're surprising, right?
Very surprising, given how they met. He said, leave if you want. I'm not your jailer. The gates are open. He explains she can live anywhere in Prythian, but venturing off his lands means certain death or torment. He offers her permission to live safely on his lands.
But she doesn't trust it.
Not for a second. Deep suspicion. She thinks, why bother? She remembers he just murdered his friend, skinned him, said he deserved it. His attempt to explain himself.
What does he say?
Foolish of me to forget that humans have such low opinions of us, questioning human understanding of mercy. It just establishes this immediate, fundamental gulf of mistrust and misunderstanding between them.
Okay, so stepping inside brings her into contact with others. This is where we meet Lucien, right? Leading us into these first encounters and how this new world starts revealing itself.
Exactly. Once inside, she meets Lucien. He's described as red-haired, finely dressed, wearing that distinctive bronze fox mask with a wicked scar running down his face, covering one eye socket with a carved golden orb.
And his personality.
Immediately sharp and snarky. The initial interaction isn't even with her. It's between him and Tamlin about Andrus, the wolf she killed. Lucien doesn't seem to notice her at first, just asks Tamlin if Andrus is truly dead. Tamlin nods.
And this conversation clarifies how she got there.
Yes. They discuss how Andrus was killed by an ash arrow, harmful to Fae, and confirm the treaty summons, triggered by the death, led Tamlin straight to Feyre's cottage. Lucien expresses total disbelief that scrawny thing brought down Andrus.
And when he does notice her,
his hostility is immediate. He turns to her and demands, "Did you enjoy killing my friend Human?" Then questions her lack of hesitation, the hatred he perceives.
Tamlin steps in.
Tamlin cuts in, identifies her by name. Her name is Feyre, confirming he learned it back at her cottage. Lucien then introduces himself with a flourish and a mocking bow. Lucien Sierre, an emissary, delivers sarcastic compliments about her eyes and hair, clearly trying to bait her for her name.
But she doesn't give it.
Nope. Wary, protective of information, she refuses to give them her name or any personal details. She's thinking about her family, determined to keep them separate. Tamlin eventually directs a servant, Alice, to take her away.
Alice. Another masked figure.
Yes. Rotund, brown-haired woman, simple dress, wearing a brass bird mask, clearly a servant. Seeing even the staff in masks leads Feyre to assume initially that it's just a fashion trend, vanity, superficiality among these High Fae.
Alice takes her where?
to an incredibly lavish bedroom. She's bathed, her hair is cut, plucked until she feels like a chicken. Despite the luxury, she's terrified, wonders if this is just preparation before she becomes their next meal, clinging only to Tamlin's promise of life.
And she overhears things that confirm her fears.
Pretty much. As Alice leads her away, Lucien's comments are cutting. He's frustrated they're stuck with that, calls her a burden, suggests killing her or dumping her somewhere. Openly skeptical, she won't try to stab them.
But Tamlin disagrees.
Firmly, Tamlin says no. Explicitly states, not until we know for certain that there is no other way, that she stays unharmed, and declares end of discussion. He even adds her life in that hut was hell enough.
So a hint of mercy. Or something else.
It's complex, right? Feyre overhears this, feels a strange heat in her cheeks, aware of Alice watching her. It introduces this potential, maybe self-serving mercy from Tamlin that contrasts sharply with his initial actions.
Lucien pushes back, though.
Oh, yeah. He makes sarcastic remarks about her life being a fine replacement for Andros, suggests border training. Tamlin responds with a snarl of irritation, ending the argument for now. It really highlights their different views and Tamlin's unexpected, resolute protection of her. The reasons are still murky.
Later, she joins them for another meal. Formal dining room this time.
Yes. And the source emphasizes the wealth, golden goblets, an amazing array of food. Stark contrast to her poverty. She reflects on her sister Nesta, calling her a half-wild beast. But sitting there, she thinks, in their eyes, all humans are probably seen that way.
She must be starving, but hesitant.
Head light with hunger, but yes, hesitant under their gaze. Tamlin commands her to eat, confirming the food is safe, no magic, no drugs, then insists on serving her himself, stating, it's an honor for a human to be served by a high F.
That sounds weirdly condescending.
It does, presented as an honor, but reinforcing the power imbalance. They watch her closely as she eats. It's an effort for her to stay composed. The food, of course, is incredible after her life of scarcity.
Tamlin stops her from eating too much.
Surprisingly, yes. Shows unexpected insight. He tells her to stop, saying, one more bite and you'll hurl your guts up. Correctly assesses her body is overwhelmed after prolonged hunger.
And Lucien uses this for more taunting.
Naturally. Questions why she finds their company unpleasant compared to village men. Needles Tamlin about his rusty skills with females, confirming Tamlin is ancient, saying it's been decades since he saw a human like her, implying centuries.
How does Feyre respond?
Sharply, reflecting her pragmatic mindset. Because killing is easier in pants. Tamlin glares, but Lucien seems amused, snorting, his white teeth gleaming behind the mask.
Does she ask them directly what their plans are?
She does. What would you plan to do with me? Tamlin's reply seems dismissive, framing her safety around her lack of importance. Nothing. Do whatever you want, adding, you're insignificant enough to not ruffle this estate unless you decide to start killing us.
Backhanded assurance again. Safe because she's beneath notice.
Unless she becomes a threat. She pushes back one last time, saying she was close with a man back in my village before that treaty ripped me away. This gets a shared look between Tamlin and Lucien. They press her, asking if she loved anyone.
And she denies it.
Denies it, wary of giving them any leverage against her or her family. Tamlin explains their curiosities, saying they wanted to learn more about you since you'll be here for a good while, noting Lucien's pride often gets in the way. He sighs, dismisses her to rest, reminds her they're busy, asks staff if she needs anything.
What's his final justification for sparing her?
Delivered quietly, heavily. I kill too often as it is, gives her a distant nod. As she leaves, Lucien's barking laugh echoes, followed quickly by Tamlin's sharp, vicious growl, silencing him.
That exchange reveals so much, doesn't it? The power dynamics, her perceived insignificance versus the disruption she's caused, their arrogance, their complex relationship with violence, her vulnerability.
Absolutely. It sets the stage for her trying to navigate this court, spending time there, starting to uncover its secrets.
Okay, so she starts to settle in a way. What's her routine like?
Well, she establishes a routine, waking before dawn, but still feels utterly trapped despite Tamlin saying she's not under house arrest. Her defiance is small things, like just wanting fresh air, rejecting Tamlin's offer of a formal tour.
Tamlin tries to interact.
He appears in the mornings, attempts pleasantness, no tripwires today, but his frustration shows when she refuses his offer to ride the grounds. He eventually just prowls back into the house without another word. Can't quite force her compliance there.
But she needs information, right? For escape, for her family.
Desperately. So she seeks out Lucien at the stables, hoping he'll talk. The stable hands, she notes, all wear horse masks and ignore her, maybe wary because of Andros, maybe just her human status.
How does Lucien react?
Casually, mourning Feyre, but immediately interested in her hunting skills, curious how she brought down his friend. He reveals he's heading out on patrol in the southern woods and, maybe out of curiosity or twisted amusement, offers to take her along.
She must realize their hunting styles are different.
Oh yeah. Her hunting was stalking, snares, his is chasing prey on horseback. Her skill is necessity and stealth, his is power and speed. Big difference.
He confirms she's safe with him, though.
He does, referencing Tamlin's order. No ash arrows today, he says, referring to the weapon that killed Andress. She suspects his motive is mockery or curiosity, but agrees. Another chance for information.
And during this patrol, they talk about the blight.
Yes, a critical piece of information comes up. Lucien explains it's a sickness affecting their magic, forcing Fae with shape-shifting gifts to wear masks permanently. He says they'd peel them off with our bare hands if they could. Shows how much they hate it.
And he knows where it came from.
He says it came from the shitholes of hell, but immediately regrets it, glancing around fearfully, mumbling, if word got back to her.
Her again.
Ah.
The mystery figure.
Exactly. A powerful, unseen entity that even Lucien clearly fears. He also voices suspicion of humans, suggesting they might sell the information to the highest bidder, which annoys Feyre.
Did she ask about his scar? His eye?
She does. Lucien is cagey. Only says it involved the cauldron, that Tamlin didn't cause the injury, but Tamlin got him the replacement eye. The cauldron is left hanging something significant, powerful, tied to fame, magic, or history, clearly traumatic for Lucien.
But he warns her about asking too many questions.
He does. Mentions certain Fae who will answer questions if trapped old and wicked beings like the Surreal, but warns seeking them out is not worth the danger, and her curiosity could land her under actual house arrest.
But she does it anyway.
Despite the warning, yes, her rationale is urgent. She needs knowledge about the Blight Treaty loopholes, how to warn her family. She decides the risk is necessary.
How does she find this surreal?
Relies on her human hunting skills, sets snares in the woods, and encounters it. The description is unsettling. Bare, gnarled feet, lipless mouth, gray teeth, dark veil, bone-colored skin. Its voice is strange. At once one and many, old and young, beautiful and grotesque.
And it knows she's lying.
Immediately. Proves Lucien's point about Fae detecting lies. She lies about her mother telling stories, and it says, lies? I can smell the lies on your breath. Confirms humans have no advantage in deception there.
So she asks the big question. Can she go home?
Yes. Is there truly no way for me to go home? The answer is devastating. Not unless you seek to be killed and your family with you. You must remain here. Crushes her hope, solidifies her captivity and the threat to her family.
Then she asks about Tamlin.
She does, and the Surreal delivers the huge reveal. Tamlin is a High Lord of the Spring Court.
That changes everything.
Fundamentally. Visceral shock, the earth tilted beneath me. He's not just some minor lord, he's one of the 7 rulers of Prythian. She's not just a captive, she's a prisoner of a king. Elevates the stakes immensely.
Does the surreal say more?
It starts to, beginning a history lesson about Wicker kings and commanders and their connection to Tamlin and the Blight. But they're interrupted. Monsters, the Naga, appear suddenly, slithering beasts, launching a vicious attack. Feyre and Lucien have to fight for their lives. Her bow skills come in handy again, even against magical creatures.
Tamlin arrives.
Just in time. Intervenes with immense power, killing the Naga swiftly, brutally, flurry of claws and teeth. Appears afterward, covered in blood. Terrifying.
How does Feyre react?
Shaking, sick, overwhelmed by the smell of Naga blood. Tamlin confirms he saved her life, saying it was the least I could do. They shouldn't have gotten this far onto my lands. But his demeanor is shame, defeat, not triumph. These attacks are a burden, a personal failing.
So this reinforces the danger, the external threats, his power, but she still can't trust him.
Still can't bring herself to confide, can't tell him the manor isn't home, learns a hard lesson, stay close to the house, especially when he's away dealing with these threats.
As she spends more time there, she starts getting glimpses into the lives and burdens of others, like Alice the servant.
Yeah, we learn more about Alice. When Feyre asks about war, border attacks, other High Lords, Alice warns her away, call down bad luck. Shows a deep fear within the court itself.
But Alice shares her own story.
She does. Very personal. Her sister and mate were murdered by Naga 50 years ago, leaving 2 younglings Alice now raises. Explains her dedication. Everything she does is for these boys.
And this leads to info about Fae life cycles.
A brief but important insight. Alice reveals some Fae age, like humans, breed as often as rabbits, but others, like Alice and High Fae, age slowly, rarely produce young. These younglings are incredibly precious, more precious to us than jewels or gold.
Explains her dedication. Maybe hints why Tamlin's court feels static.
Could be. Alice also shows she's been watching Feyre closely. Knows about her asking for the surreal, the trap attempt, her idiocy with the puka, calls Feyre a foolish, stupid girl who deserved the death for taking such risks, questions if Feyre would act this way if she had family, pointing out Alice does have family, implying Feyre acts like she has nothing to lose.
Ouch. Does Alice offer any useful advice?
A bit of practical wisdom, maybe? Dismisses Feyre's dead chickens my sagging ass approach to trapping the surreal and suggests offering it a new robe instead. Understanding specific Fae desires is key.
We also get deeper into Tamlin's burdens, right? Starting with the Naga wound.
Yes. Feyre binds his wound. He comments the bite slows Fae healing, expresses gratitude. Feyre reflects she learned wound binding through trial and error, needing to pull a bowstring the next day back home. Constant need for physical recovery for survival.
Then he asks her that question.
That quiet, maybe vulnerable question. Has anyone ever taken care of you? Her simple answer, no. Poignant moment revealing her self-sufficiency, lack of nurturing.
He connects her skills to her past.
Yeah, observes she learned to hunt and survive because she was responsible for lives other than your own. Acknowledges her capabilities. You aren't what I expected for a human. Recognizing her strength despite his earlier view of her frailness.
And then the overheard argument between him and Lucien reveals a lot about his father.
A crucial piece. Lucien calls Tamlin's actions a mistake from the start, accuses him of sulking and glowering. Tamlin fiercely responds he refuses to follow in his footsteps, won't be that sort of person, explicitly mentioning what my father did to their kind, to their lands.
So Tamlin's father was likely cruel, tyrannical.
Strongly implied, Tamlin is actively trying not to be like him. This internal conflict seems to drive some of his actions, or inaction.
Lucien disagrees with this approach.
Thinks Tamlin's stance is sealing our fates and ruining everything, calls his heart soft. Points out the worsening situation. Bog on their lands, barriers gone, woods teeming with filth. Tamlin's anger flares, growls, watch your mouth. Intense magic and tension between them.
And the mystery of she deepens with that invisible creature.
Yes, it has a deep, sentient voice, knows about Tamlin's court, the Naga kills, says she is wondering why you haven't given up yet, implying Tamlin is expected to fail or surrender. She's not pleased. Tamlin is still dispatching warriors, choosing to ignore it for now. Reinforces Tamlin is defying she.
How does Tamlin respond?
Defiantly. Tell her I'm getting sick of cleaning up the trash she dumps on my borders. Explicitly calls the creatures gifts and reminders of what will happen if she catches you trying to break the terms of something unspecified.
So she sends the monsters as leverage,
Yep.
tied to some terms.
Confirmed. Naga, Puka, their punishments are leverage against Tamlin. Lucien adds his anger, calls the creature elk, filth, commands it to stay the hell out of the cave. Elk is probably just his insult. The cave mentioned suggests a significant location.
And the creature's final taunt.
Chilling and personal. Calls Tamlin Heart of Stone, claims he keeps a host of fear inside it, then a brutal laugh. Paints she as powerful, manipulative, deeply connected to Tamlin's struggles.
Then we learn about the Great Rite. Sounds disturbing.
It is. Lucien explains it's an annual ritual by each High Lord to regenerate magic and fertility. Magic drawn from the earth returns to it through the High Lord.
How does it work?
Tamlin allows great and terrible magic to enter him, turning him into the hunter. Consumes mind, body, soul, leaving only that one basic command and need. Involves hunting a white stag as a sacrifice.
I'm finding a maiden.
Yes. In a sacred cave, Lucien says no one knows until it's time. Tamlin's instincts, driven by the magic, choose her from female fairies waiting nearby.
Lucien warns Feyre specifically about this night.
Urgently. Tamlin, in his righted state, would have smelled you and claimed you, emphasizing it wouldn't have been Tamlin who brought you into that cave. Makes it clear, tonight is not for lovemaking, causes Feyre physical sickness.
What's his final instruction?
Absolute. Stay in your room tonight, Feyre. No matter who comes knocking, keep the door locked, don't come out until morning. Underscores the danger.
And the aftermath.
Violent, somber. Tamlin returns carrying a dying Fae male, wings ripped, shows quiet grief, buries him alone. Feyre witnesses this, feels empathy, thinks he deserved better, feels regret over killing Andras. Starts seeing the personal cost of violence.
Amidst all this danger and mystery, some unexpected connections start forming. Like the art gallery.
Exactly. A different side emerges. Tamlin shows Feyre the art gallery. explains it was closed off when he inherited this place, links it to his father's warband background, suggesting this cultured life wasn't his father's path, maybe not Tamlin's intended one either. Keeping it closed seems tied to his feelings about the title, inheritance.
But the surprise is her painting supplies.
The truly surprising reveal. The gallery is where her painting supplies came from. An unexpected gesture of consideration acknowledges her past passion, gives her a link to her former self, potential solace.
And then the moment with her word list.
Another insightful side of Tamlin, he finds her crumpled list of unfamiliar words absurd. Unusual, slang, configuration, highlights her lack of education. Her reaction is deep shame, embarrassment, especially when he reads them aloud, finding them absurdly easy.
But he doesn't mock her.
No, that's key. He offers help, says, "I owe you for the hand," referencing her binding his wound. Questions why she won't let him help her learn when she let loose and take her hunting.
Her reason is trust, right?
Exactly. I don't know you, who you are, or what you really are, or what you want. Her profound struggle to trust a Fae, given history and her arrival.
Then Tamlin makes that observation about her family.
Really insightful. Asks, "You love them very much, don't you?" Wonders if they realize it. States with certainty everything you've done wasn't about that promise to your mother or for your sake, but for theirs.
That must hit hard.
Cuts to the core. Her silence and shame confirm it, driven by love and responsibility, even if they seemed unappreciative. He reiterates his offer to help her read right, tries to console her, offers a surprising assessment of her strength, revising his view of her frailness, calls her a human who can take down a fairy in a wolf's skin, who ensnared the surreal and killed 2 Naga on her own, calls those who don't see it fools.
He asks about Fae and mortals being friends.
Raises that larger question. Shares a story from the Great War 500 years ago. Fae fought alongside humans, died for their freedom, mourned the separation. Says if he'd been old enough, he'd have fought against tyranny. Presents a more complex Fae-human history than Feyre knows.
And then the big one. He altered her family's memories.
One of the most significant, maybe controversial reveals, used Fae magic, glamored them. They now believe she was called away by a wealthy, dying Fae aunt, that she's alive and cared for.
Why do you do it?
His rationale was protective. Argues he did it to stop them trying to cross the wall to find her, facing Prythian's dangers. Puka, Bug, Naga, believes they would have died anyway. Thinks he saved their lives.
Feyre's reaction.
Immediate shock, outrage, calls it fairy arrogance, a violation, lashes out, "You don't know him," about her father, insisting Tamlin couldn't understand. Tamlin's response is quiet sadness, acknowledges the gulf his action created.
But he still ends gently. With the list.
Despite the conflict, yes. Gives the list back, encourages her to learn, offers a rare, genuine smile, asks to show her the art gallery the next day. "Please, it would be my pleasure." Her surprised reaction shows how unexpected these moments feel.
So where does this leave us at the end of this initial journey? We've followed Feyre from struggling hunter to a High Fae court.
Yeah, a world of overwhelming beauty, luxury, power, and so many hidden dangers. We've seen her remarkable resilience, her sharp intelligence, her determination navigating this alien environment, constantly observing, seeking information, clinging to her motivations that promise, her love for her family.
And the Fae. Definitely not a monolith.
Far from it. Brutal creatures, dismissive figures, snarky but complex emissaries, and a High Lord who, despite immense power and intimidation, carries significant burdens, shows flickers of unexpected kindness, insight, even vulnerability.
Plus, their world is clearly under siege. The blight, the border attacks, the mysterious she.
Exactly. Prythian, even a High Lord's court, isn't a place of unchallenged peace. Tamlin's weighed down by his title, his father's legacy, the great right, the external threats, possibly linked to breaking terms with she.
That core bargain, a life for a life, seemed simple at first. But the payment, it's so much more.
Profoundly more. Not just her physical presence, it's the alteration of her family's memories, the end of her human life as she knew it, the terrifying truth that her family's safety depends on her forced residence there.
And as we leave her navigating the spring court, so many questions linger. What's the deal with she? Can the blight be stopped? What are the full terms Tamlin's trying to break? Any real loopholes for Feyre? What role will she play? How will her human past collide with this Fae present?
It leaves you with a provocative thought, doesn't it? If your life is claimed by a world you never chose, forced there by law, and your family's safety hinges on you staying, can you ever truly be free? Even with luxury, moments of care. What's the real ultimate cost of that kind of survival?
A lot to unpack, for sure, and this feels like just the beginning.
Precisely. The threads are woven deeply now, and they are just starting to pull tight.